Well, welcome to this meeting with the Cemetery Board. I'm Dan Shapiro. I'm Secretary of State for Paralysis as Chair, designee.
Paul Ambrose, representing Commissioner Howard Zucker of the Department of Health.
Christopher Wild, representing the Attorney General, Eric Schneiderman.
Louis Polishuk, Director, Division of Cemeteries.
And representing well.
Representative.
Justin Butkowitz, Assistant Director, Division of Cemeteries.
Doug Seelman, Senior Investigator, Division of Cemeteries.
Len Breen, Investigator, Division of Cemeteries.
Joe Ambrose, Associate Accountant, Division of Cemeteries.
Tony Melillo, Counsel to the Cemetery Board.
Welcome.
Wait, Monet, you have to
Monet, say hello, Monet.
Monet McAdoo, Secretary for the Division of Cemetery.
And while you're identifying yourself, could I have a board package, please? I see you have one over there.
Ah, so there was an ulterior motive.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Have folks an opportunity to review the minutes?
Yes. Yes.
Comments, changes, additions?
I had two changes with that.
I didn't print out the email, but I think she made them already.
Yeah, I did.
Under my report, where it says location, the word should be application.
Okay.
Yeah, and then under Mount Pleasant Cemetery, the motion, it should say the motion to approve the certificate of its filing. It's got that.
You beat me to it. I wanted noted I had just that in my changes. I had a question about the division report. 16 to 20 applications down there. What applications were we talking about? I don't even recall, so I can't.
Just general columbarium, land sale, land purchase, land sale.
Something other than balance and application.
Yeah, the review of, why don't you just say certain applications that go before the board. Excluding vandalism.
Vandalism, etc.
Well, yeah, excluding vandalism applications, okay. I thought there would have been more, that's why, okay.
Maybe we have to say no.
Excluding vandalism, certain excluding vandalism applications in parens. And anything else? I see you have a nice marked up copy there.
Just minor changes. Lean is not an acronym, it's just a word.
That's true.
It is?
Yes.
Lean management
doesn't
is the
mean
term of
anything.
choice.
It's not an acronym.
It means what it says.
So lowercase, or you can capitalize the
Initial cap.
Under Flushing, we can strike or change additional calculations and research was done.
Where?
Under Flushing. Under the second
Yeah.
page.
I guess that's implicit in this stuff.
Yeah,
that I
yes.
was-
Yeah.
Public comments, a check that bounced, we can choose different words or terminology there that be more official. We appreciate it.
And if you remember writing a check that was refused. That was refused, and still hasn't been paid. I don't remember.
It should be has not, anyway.
How about dishonored?
Dishonored, I was gonna say, I don't remember what the UCC term is, that was dishonored.
That's it.
Cool. Anything?
No.
On the motion?
Motion to approve.
Second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. All right. Mr. Melillo.
Unfortunately, nothing new on the proposed regs. They still have not been published. Waiting for approval to publish.
Okay.
On the use of net appreciation, we've made some changes, provided them to NYSEC, asked NYSEC to circulate to interested parties, and we're ready to go back. Hopefully, we're much closer together with this draft.
And obviously, you know, we're circling this, if anybody approaches for a draft, a comment on, it's fine. Shorting it out. Okay, great. Thank you. Division report.
I had nothing.
Wow.
I had something, but it kind of
Okay, what's this value stream mapping? Who's gonna do that?
Oh, Chet, didn't we do that? That was last month.
That was last month.
Yeah.
So just tell us what happened, at the NYSAC conference.
Oh, well, actually, it was a great venue, well attended, and I just shared with Mr. Fleming, and appreciate being invited to be able to kind of talk about some topics. And some good questions after our presentation. Basically talked about going through the lean process to improve some of the processes that we have within the division. Hopefully we'll, turn applications around a bit more timely or efficiently. Talked about a little bit of, we touched about net appreciation. There was some comments about, having to continue to work together on that, and just trying to think what else might have touched.
Was that before or after folks have looked at the new draft?
Well, I understand that it has been circulated
Yeah,
already,
I'll wait.
and so, but it was a good venue. It was good to talk about issues that were coming up, and
It's always good, yeah.
I appreciate being here.
I do have one thing, the NYSAC's having its, on the Ontario regional, which is usually its better attended regional meetings a week from today. I'll be there, and invite you to Cindy, and I think Alicia is doing is Alicia doing the accounting piece? I forget.
I believe so.
Yeah, and I think we're gonna bring Brendan and Andrew up there to visit the folks there, because some of the people on the Ontario will be in their jurisdiction.
Great, okay.
But again, I want to thank Mr. Hallenbeck and Mr. Fleming for presenting.
Oh, and also we will be rocking and rolling with the cremation training course.
Oh, yes.
From tomorrow.
That's actually important.
That'll be, it's out at the Holiday Inn in Colony now?
Yeah, it's called the Radisson.
The Radisson.
They changed the name.
Okay,
It's on Wolf Road.
okay. So we'll be on the on Wednesday and on Wolf Road on Thursday.
All right, bring your bucks.
With respect to the meeting, will the board be seeing, hearing any updates on progress on streamlining processes?
And we got one.
Well, yeah, we
As we go forward.
agreed. Actually, we'll have to do that because we're specifically addressing the applications that go before the board, so absolutely.
Chet, I'm gonna morph you right into vandalism.
Okay, so for the current fiscal year period ending September 30th, vandalism collected were $153,840, $480. Applications granted totaled $264,444, and applications pending totaled $181,288. Of the applications granted, 2 were for vandalism, totaling $1,325. Applications for restoration there were 7 applications, totaling $211,669, and 1 application for abandonment, which totaled $51,450.
Thank you. All right, so turning to the orders before us, I just had 2 things. And thanks, Division, for doing the warranty information. It's pretty eye-opening, actually. It's really interesting differences, so I'm glad we're paying attention.
And we were able to Mike was able to get better warranty information as out of people by saying one is no good.
Yeah. So if in fact, well, we'll see how that continues to go, because if the board demands it, and the division then demands it, then I think they'll get it.
Right, it seems like a demand that can be met.
Because of a 1 year warranty, or even a 3-year warranty is, to put it colloquially, buckus.
My parents once bought a Leger print from Corvettes. Remember Corvettes?
Corvettes department store,
Yeah,
sure.
they bought a Leger print from Corvettes, and it was guaranteed to be a genuine Leger print for 1 year.
That's pretty hard. All right. Now, so along the line of the warranty information, I didn't see any for Temple Hill. Did I just miss that?
Yes, it was not there, so I called them yesterday when that brought to my attention. And the high bid is a 3-year warranty. And low bid is Snyder.
Yeah,
He said lifetime, who's lifetime? Cemetery's lifetime, your lifetime.
His lifetime.
If he's
Yeah.
alive, he'll always stand by it. he
Okay.
said.
all right, we should get that, we should make sure in the future, that the cemeteries get these things in writing.
By
so that-
requesting you send me something in writing.
Yeah. Yes, okay, very, very good. So we don't have to, and then the only other comment that I had anyway, is just an observation and maybe something we should pay attention to. We always have these conversations about flush markers, so we've had them many times. And it looks like we may be getting, on some cases, close to the price, like for Pine Grove Cemetery, 34 versus 23, or 24. And I think the cemetery is almost always going to say, and maybe I'm wrong, but especially the smaller ones, that no, we want to default to the standing markers. And maybe, and I just want the division to think about it when they review this. I think, Louis, maybe that's not the best thing, because and maybe I'm wrong, but the flush markers require far less care for maintenance. They're not going to fall down. They're never going to be dangerous. So that when it's close in value, maybe even if it $50 more, the board ought to be considering, on recommendation from the division, actually mandating the replacement.
I'm not sure I agree with you that they
Okay.
require much less care for maintenance. They certainly will never fall down, and they certainly will never require a dangerous monument application. But they do tend to get overgrown, they tend to get scuffed, they
Right.
tend to get stuff growing on them.
In this-
I still think if you add all of that together, it's still less, it may still be cheaper than dealing with the other one getting dangerous.
And
The other thing is-
and you may be absolutely right. I'm just asking for some focus on that, so that as these prices become closer, that we have, the ability to distinguish between the two, what's better or not.
Do you want us to request the quotes even if the cemetery doesn't wish to do that? Because now we more or less give them the option beforehand. And you'll see most of Cindy's from last year, it's already out there with the monument dealers and they provide both.
Yeah,
And the rest of us, because it's always been higher, if they tell us up front, it's a historic section we don't wanna replace, we'd rather repair, then we don't require them to get that information from the monument dealers.
I think we ought to see it. I think we
Okay.
ought to have it. And, I don't know that a cemetery has ever said it's not an historic section, right? So a little.
In
certainly-
Western New York, sometimes they are indifferent to which kind of marker
Okay.
they get up.
All right.
Because there's a tradition of these flush markers out there.
I mean, this may be a discussion that will have no impact whatsoever, because it may always be a lot more expensive. Maybe this is sort of an anomaly.
A big part of the expense has been, we don't want them to take these old monuments down and stack them in the back of the cemetery. And so how do you dispose of 2,000 pounds worth of marble or granite without stacking?
I've got a
it?
driveway.
Yeah, and what happens in 50 years when somebody drives up in your driveway and sees it there and complains, why is there a headstone there? That would be a legitimate
That would be a
reason.
problem.
There would be a legitimate explanation, but it's gonna take some
It
explaining.
would be an appearance of
I mean,
impropriety.
well, for you, yes, but we do get these calls, we do get these calls every now and then,
Really?
I found a gravestone in my, walk, what do I do?
The back porch was the back step was a gravestone turned over. One person had a basement with a dirt cellar, and it was all flagstones. Well, they were.
There is some residual
Turned upside down.
expectation in the public that wouldn't happen.
So-
I wonder how much it costs to sandblast that off.
So part of the expense has been, proper disposal would be trucking them off-site, disposing of the landfill.
I see.
Which is also wasteful.
It's, everything is more complicated.
We got the town of, I think it was Brookhaven, one of the towns on Long Island, shored up the jetty using headstones. Now, we got a complaint about this, we looked into it, it's not really their jurisdiction, but we looked
Right.
into it, turns out they were getting duds from monument dealers. Where they
Yeah.
made mistakes that
Right,
couldn't be
right,
fixed,
right.
and they were using those, and that's and they were turning them inwards where possible.
So
It's entirely
bringing-
appropriate, but it does raise questions.
Okay.
Is there a cutoff at which we're talking about historical, like headstones from the 1700s? People go to cemeteries to see them.
Yeah, absolutely. There really are.
Not
historical
replace those
sections.
because they're before a certain date, or
There's no specific, it could be architecture, it could be, there's a lot of reasons why it might be idiosyncratically important in the cemetery. We typically let the cemetery make that call. Call, I think, is almost always that is historic. You know, we can really disagree, that comes to our attention. But I was just asking for a little more information.
When it's not historic, the objection would be the section is made up of entirely of these types of markers. It would be jarring for people to come and see.
Or
these steps.
yeah, or it's architecturally significant for whatever reason. We all understand. Okay. Any other comments on these orders?
I
Tony
only
has one.
noticed that, Baptist Rural didn't have a copy of the newspaper ad, had a copy of the bill, but not the edit, so.
And I saw that this morning and I checked and I don't have the file. I can get a copy and I am 99% sure that they followed our format.
Okay.
Based on the rest of the application, but I'll request that.
Can we approve it conditioned on us
Yeah.
verifying that, so we don't have to go back next month?
Absolutely.
Is there ever any insurance on the vandalism? When there's a police report or anything like that?
The cemeteries don't have insurable interest in the headstones is the issue. We had one case, it was my first month here, where a chapel was vandalized, and we made them go against their insurance before they collected from us. Turns out there was a deductible, and they had made a difference, but in a case like that, a community mausoleum or a chapel, they would have to go on their insurance.
Yep. Any other comments on these?
On Baptist, I noticed there was a difference in the memo versus attachment C. One said the warranty is 25 years, and one is 20. And Senecal Memorials, that we selected,
Yeah, the low bid was Senecal, we gave.
it says 20 years. Then it says Senecal warranty for 5 years, resetting.
I had a conversation with him after and I didn't correct the memo.
So it's 20 years?
Let me just clarify that. So it should be 20 years. Because initially it listed 10 years, for a period of 10 years, and he updated that to 20. However, the 5 years is for the resetting. So there's a difference between the foundation should be 20 and the actual setting compound of 5. And I think that's reasonable. I think within 5 years if something's gonna fail, you'll see it. Whereas the foundation is more, you know, it might take longer to fail.
So what does wallpapers are in order deem? We're referring to, we say.
Well, with the exception of Baptist Rural, where all papers were not in order, because I didn't have the ad included. Basically, we want the 2 estimates, the completed application, basically all the papers that we need to prove, that we're requesting from them to prove that they have a legitimate complaint, or application.
Does it also mean, Mike, that they're up to date in their vandalism payments?
No, but we do check that as well.
They usually specify that separately, but I was wondering if their annual reporting was up to date.
When I say that, I mean by the papers to deal with the application.
So are we checking? I think you mentioned at one point
Yeah.
that we should require that
Yeah.
their annual reports be up to date.
And I think you now are, right?
Yes, we do.
Yeah.
I usually call Monet with the list.
So just to nail it down, so that if you didn't say anything, the correct assumption is that you checked and just not the report.
But I can just include that, just to be
All right,
affirmative that they check.
that would be nice. Okay, good. Very good. All right,
I move to approve the application.
all right. 1 Baptist Rural will be conditioned on division's determination that the advertising was done in accord with statute.
Okay, correct.
All right. Second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Great. All right.
These need to get signed, Brandon.
Welcome, Sholem.
Okay, the division had initially approved, recommended approval of, they have an existing cell tower at the edge, at the entrance, near the entrance of the cemetery. They have another carrier wants to add some things to the tower, which is no big deal, but more importantly, expand the base, the footprint of the tower. We actually went back to the carrier and got them to move their expanded base over a little bit because we thought it was getting way too close to the existing graves. It's still a little tight. However, we are no longer recommending approval of this in its current form, primarily because there are certain rights granted under the lease. Tony, I'm going to defer to Tony to explain this better, but they give, generally speaking, these cell tower leasers give the cell tower companies the right to make modifications or access to this, to that, an area leading up to the tower and right in the area of the tower. This one, because of the way the definition section is written, actually gives them the right to do all of that anywhere in the cemetery. And after speaking with council, we don't think the fact that we have a rider that will go with the lease that clarifies that they can't mess with things is really good enough. They're gonna actually have to rewrite this lease.
Right.
Which, by the way, they entered in improperly. They didn't know any better, entered into before getting our approval, although it doesn't take effect until you guys approve
It's
it.
contingent on. Okay.
So, it's not that we're against this project. We think that in general, if this is gonna generate additional revenue for them, that's a good thing. But they're gonna have to do some more redrafting before we're prepared to recommend approval. They also mentioned something about a certain time within which it should be approved. And for that reason, instead of withdrawing the application, we're actually asking that the board, recommending that the board reject it without prejudice, or deny it.
Okay, well, that's certainly a fatal defect. But before we discuss that, I want to get back to, the placement, the footprint.
Yes.
Because I know it was really, really close, and I think it originally came in at a foot off existing graves.
Maybe 15 inches.
Okay.
Yeah, it's close. It was
And
close.
you asked for a bit more, which is
I asked
another
them to move
foot.
it over another foot.
Where
This
is,
is the mock-up. This is, it was in the packet, but they didn't print very well. So this is the existing, and this is a mock-up of where it would be if it was approved. I don't know if it's.
I think that's their old mock-up. I think they.
okay, but still, so it'd be over here.
Yeah, I had another picture from a different angle that shows my actual photos as opposed to the mock-up.
It's kind of like, I didn't.
Oh, because I had some photos that I very quickly found.
Now, I will note.
That show, like, oh, here, is this it?
This is the front. See,
That's the before.
yeah.
Yeah.
Then
Where
they're
is
expanding to the right.
Sean?
That-
Oh, it's in the
Yeah.
package.
Yeah,
This,
I probably have them on the
yeah,
phone.
yeah. I,
Oh, these are my pictures, but they're horrible.
if, that's right, I mean, we can see it. If the board rejects it today, without prejudice to renew, obviously, I would like the division to pursue trying to figure out how not to change the footprint or to have the footprint expand away from the existing graves.
If the cemetery and the carrier are amenable, I think the sensible thing would be for me to just meet them out there and walk
And that's,
beside them.
and that's purely up to the division. I'm just flagging this because it seems to me and look, this particular project, the initial installation came before the board had an understanding that this was a matter of land, we'll call it land acquisition almost, and of the nature of the potential imposition on the bondholders that a structure like this could have. And so it never did come before the board, 2008, before the division started referring those things to the board. And I don't know, I mean, I'm looking at this and boy, that really is, that's right in the middle of the cemetery, very close to the graves as it stands. I'm not sure that it would be appropriate to allow it to further, transfer.
The existing doesn't look as bad as if you go there as it does in the pictures. It's, I don't know why, but it doesn't.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not even, I'm just, yeah.
But I'm not arguing with your concern.
Would have been a
That's
diff-
the existing.
I tell you what, if
Is
this
this
is,
the entrance?
The entrance to the cemetery is over there.
Oh. So
You
this
don't
is-
go in over
this
to
is
the
a
back
door.
door. It's, well, it's, no, the entrance is just scooched right over there. That is right in front of the cemetery, but you don't go right next to the cell tower. It's like further over.
It looks like this used to be an entrance, but
Yes.
with the cell tower
Yeah.
there now,
Yes.
it's
and I
not.
got, if this had come before the board
I'll show you the
today,
ways
we'd have
that-
very serious concerns.
And the other thing I think the board should consider is, we now require that the proceeds of these leases go into the permanent maintenance fund. According to Vince's report, the permanent maintenance fund is fully funded. It's always good to add cash, but it doesn't need the cash, so that ought to be weighed against, any further impact on the graves.
I made clear to the cemetery that our recommendation would be that all proceeds go to the personal maintenance fund.
That's where it
And
goes.
they said they might wanna take issue with that. I told them they would have opportunity to take issue with that, but we have a more fundamental defect at this point anyway.
So we've got, there's a lot of homework to do on this one.
And what about, Jacobson's, lack of contracts and agreements and board approvals?
We probably, David Jacobson, who operates the cemetery, operates a couple of other cemeteries. He has the same personnel providing services to all, for the most part, to all of them. They're all not very far apart. I think technically the personnel work for one of the cemeteries and reimbursements go back and forth. So tracking that money would probably be a good idea. If the money's going into the permanent maintenance fund, it may be less of a concern.
But we always do.
But an audit, we ought to, they're probably due for an audit anyway.
Did they have Vince, when was the last audit? 4 years.
Vinny's not here.
Oh,
So.
I'm thinking.
Yeah,
Joe,
I've
do
done
you-
the audits lately.
Joe, do you know when? I mean, I can call Vinny if we want. Why don't we do this offline?
Yeah.
Because there are other reasons to request it. I have no problem. Look, there.
Well, you got these issues, you got 2 members on the board when you should have.
No, they've added a third member.
Then you always have the conflict of interest, problem. You have a lot of management problems there, as well as, cell tower locations and so forth.
Yeah, I've asked that if this comes back, there's a much more detailed financial picture of the cemetery, because they did one burial in the last 5 years, but they're reporting about 50,000 income
Yeah,
a year.
there's a
We
lot.
need to know where that income's coming from and where it's going. There's no expense items in the financial. This could be one of those cemeteries that is simply going to maintain its property from its permanent maintenance fund. So
That's
its
essentially where
expenses
they're at.
should be extremely low. It should just be maintenance at this point. So we need to see that if this comes back.
The only thing, again, not having done the only thing I'll say in possible defense is that it's not in great shape. It was taken into a terrible shape, and I think there's some tree clearage and fixing things up that has to happen every year just to keep the place minimally operational. Having said that, I agree with you 100%.
So I actually see a number of bases upon which to deny this one. Most important, it's most important, but most important being the leasehold conflict. I'm quickly articulating that. I think, is the board in agreement that we should be rejecting this?
Yeah.
This one? Okay. So, let's see. All right.
I can see that.
It's not just the cemetery.
So,
It's on an industrial street.
okay. All right, I'll move to deny the application. non-exclusive list of the bases for such denial as follows. It's got unacceptable lease provisions in contravention of the rider, which is required by the department division. That the fiscal status of the cemetery is insufficiently explained. And it hasn't been properly presented to the board. That proposed expansion of the pad is unacceptably, at least it appears to the board, it's unacceptably close to existing graves. And that's it. And I would reject it with leave to renew the application when these matters have been addressed in the division. Or at the election of the cemetery.
I would be much happier if you said that the placement may be unacceptably close.
I said appears to, I said
Obviously
appears,
satisfied
I
with
said
that.
appears to the board, but may is fine. All right,
I don't think we're thinking quite on this.
any changes?
Well,
Anything?
and the governance problem.
Well, that to some extent has been addressed. They've added a third board member since we prepared the application.
Was there a conflict of interest issue?
No, there were only 2 board members and both of them were related.
Right.
All right,
And,
They're both Jacobsons.
and if he is receiving a salary or he isn't receiving
He
a
is
salary.
not, but there are, I think there are relatives who are.
let us, since we don't have, let us direct the division, to explore potential conflicts of interest and management issues with the cemetery, and include that in their recommendation should this come before the board in the future. Okay? All right.
You mentioned that they were due for an audit.
Most of the cemeteries in New York City are due for an audit. We had no investigator for several years, and then he was doing all the investigations.
Right. Well, when they come back, they're gonna have to full fiscal, so that's akin to an audit. All right.
Okay.
Any further discussion on this one?
Did you move on?
Motion on the table?
I'll second that.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right. Oak Hill.
Look, I was using a bad letter earlier too.
Oak Hill Cemetery. Paul, you astutely raised the issue of the hospital, and I think that.
I have some additional information for you on that. 2 things. Thing number 1 is that the hospital is just over a quarter of a mile from the location of the cell tower. Thing number 2 is that there is apparently an AT&T cell tower on the roof of the hospital.
That perform the same or parallel functions. Are we talking about the same technology?
I have no idea. Absolutely no idea.
I have no knowledge, and I don't have any
I don't
expertise.
either.
Yeah.
One
Quarter
of the things
of a
I
mile
was going
seems
to
pretty
ask
far.
is that we get some kind of a presentation. This is becoming more common, that cemeteries are requesting permission to build cell towers on their property. And I don't feel like I have enough information on which to base an approval or a denial. I'd like to have someone
health
explain
issue.
to us. It could be a health issue, but it could also be an operational issue for the hospital. When you walk into certain parts of a hospital, they tell you to turn your cell phone off. Why? Is there something that might interfere with operations of the hospital, with medical care, or something? I don't know, and the potential conflict with operations of a hospital isn't something that I think the health department deals with. It's not part of the Center for Environmental Health's concern. But maybe it's up to the hospital to identify that potential interference if there were to be such a thing. Then they'd have to know what technologies are we talking about.
The only thing I would add to this is to keep in mind that ours isn't the only review of this. This is being in front of a town board, whether it's a planning board or a zoning board. And usually that's where neighbors get to comment on an application like this.
There's also an
You know,
FCC
it's-
review,
Yeah.
and presumably the FCC looks at the neighbors.
One of my questions is that type of protection included within the FCC rules? I don't know. I don't know who could tell us that.
Maybe the attorney for the carrier. I doubt that the attorney for the cemetery will even.
What we could do.
Yeah.
On an application where we see an issue is have them go to the planning board before it comes to us. Have a planning board record.
I mean, as opposed to, so they're gonna have to come back to us, I mean, it's not sufficient to approve it contingent on planning board approval?
Well,
Because presumably.
Well, it's always contingent on planning board.
Right,
approval.
but these, because these concerns can
Well,
all
we
be
could
raised.
also direct, we could direct, the concern is we don't wanna make them come back and we can't concern.
Right,
We could direct the cemetery to raise this issue, to notice, I mean, Paul has a specific concern with hospitals, which is fully understandable, appropriate, to notice the hospital, you know, for the planning board review, and that this issue be addressed, and that would be a condition of our grant. And then if the planning board denies it, they do.
unfortunately, in this particular case, there's a certain degree of history between the cemetery and the hospital,
That doesn't matter.
and
So what? It's still a legitimate issue, right?
I have no idea whether the cell tower a quarter of a mile away from the hospital is a
I doubt
legitimate
that-
issue. I highly doubt it,
I
honestly,
doubt
I know
that's an
nothing
issue.
about cell towers. I mean, other than what we do here.
How would we identify it?
Yeah, so we don't know that it's an issue, and in fact, I mean, this could be an issue for any business. I mean,
Yeah.
any business,
Right.
and I think that just by dint of practice, I mean, cell towers are everywhere, probably will. But, you know,
We don't know what they're broadcasting, we don't know what technology is potentially impacting within the hospital, so it seems that there's a need for more information than we currently have available to us. Maybe some of that would be identified in the local zoning board meetings, and if the FCC were to review it and say it looks good to us, at least we'd have that information on which to base our decision.
And I feel very strongly that you guys should be getting into this business.
well, that's, the next piece is what's the appropriate role of the board in terms of, like, how much expertise are we supposed to bring to bear? I mean, as far as cemetery, you know, name focus, cemetery operations, benefit or detriment to the cemetery, a lot holders interest, that's the primary view. Now, when you get out of the cemetery to the impact on the neighborhood generally,
Public health.
all right, public health, that moves on to locals. I mean, you know.
Or
that
the
would be
feds, or the feds.
And or the feds.
Also, there's a short-term exposure to patients, there's a long-term exposure to employees. I don't know if that's an issue that needs to be considered or not. If you worked there for 30 years,
We put up any number of cell towers, there are homeowners who live near those cell towers. We haven't gotten into the science of whether the cell towers are frying those homeowners' brains, I mean,
And it-
that's
and they're
not,
I mean, that's, I
it's
think
not,
that's.
but
what
it's,
has to
but
be-
whether it is or it isn't, it's not, I just don't think it's your province. There are other, the local planning board presumably is out there to look out for the interests of the community. And the FCC, at the very least, they're making sure that the airwaves are clear. I don't know whether they also get into external effects of radio waves. I assume they do to some extent, but I don't know enough
Well,
about it. But it's still, our role here is really on, is really on this, either as a major renovation, which is this something that's beneficial to the cemetery or somehow offensive to the cemetery's uses, and as a quasi land sale, because it's a long-term lease, which is, again, is it favorable to the cemetery, aren't the terms acceptable, are there other alternatives, that kind of thing. I don't think we should be getting
If the
into.
Department of State's probably still look at those things, the Department of Health's probably still look at.
Well, to the
It's
extent the
public
Department of
health
Health,
effects.
so to the extent the Department of Health has to approve one of these, let them go to the Department of Health as the Department of Health. I don't think the fact that the Department of Health is represented in the cemetery,
It-
which should
I-
mean that we're gonna be doing your agency's job.
Yeah, Louis, I actually agree with you, like 90%. But there's a 10%, and the 10% is that this board is comprised of, the Department of Health, the Attorney General, and the Department of State for a reason. We all have we bring our respective agency perspectives, you know, to the discussion. And Paul has raised this, it's an issue, I don't know, and I don't think Paul knows if it's an issue that has any merit.
No.
You know,
I'd just like to
but-
have
but-
someone
but-
tell me.
but it's been raised.
Not an issue.
So what I would recommend, we can have, and I'm sure that the carrier will have this briefed, and I know what the brief will say, but it'll be, but we'll have this briefed and ready for us at a moment's notice. What I'm gonna suggest is that we afford the cemetery, obviously we don't have jurisdiction over the carrier, but we afford the cemetery an opportunity to apprise us of potential communications or health risks with respect to hospital operations, since it is a quarter of a mile away from the hospital. And they can bring that back to us.
This isn't something that we could, I mean, the Cemeteries Council is standing by, you probably could loop in council for the
I have no problem with that.
carrier right now.
I have no problem with that.
I mean, I don't know what else.
As long as we get out by 12, I'm good.
There's another issue that it dawned on me when I was thinking about this. This is for 40 years potentially, up to
Right.
40 years. I have no idea what technology is going to evolve to be within 40 years. If we're approving something now, don't we have a responsibility to be looking at this on a more frequent
Well,
basis than 40 years?
Every time they add a carrier, they have to come back to us. All right, now, interesting question. I mean, we grant the cell tower, and can it become something totally different?
No. If they were gonna do that, they'd have to come back. If they're gonna change it, they've gotta come back to us.
That's what I'm saying, but they certainly can be permitted minor changes in technology. It's a question of how much. You know, right?
If they're making any material modification of this, it's
Materials.
that they've gotta come back to
Lawyers
us.
don't see that.
I mean, Paul, let's analyze this both ways. If they're messing with what's in the cemetery in any way, shape, or form, they gotta come back to us. If the surrounding technology changes, not them, but if the surrounding technology changes and somehow becomes more sensitive to what they're doing, I go back to my point that I don't think that's any of our business. We can't keep track of what happens outside the cemetery. We can keep track of what happens inside the cemetery.
I don't disagree, but if there's a major change, I guess that's what I meant by technological change. You could have a change in the technology that goes into that tower.
No, but we're talking about something different now, Dan. We're not talking about the technology in the tower changing. We're talking about, say, the hospital installing super sensitive machinery
No, I don't think we're
really
talking
gets
about
fried
that.
by radio waves.
I don't think we're talking about that.
No? That's not
I
what
think
we're
the
talking
hospital
about?
has to deal with that. I think what Paul is suggesting is that, what if the tower technology itself changes? You know, it doesn't come back before the board, and my answer would be that we've approved a specific thing, and if it substantially changes, it ought to come back before the board.
Absolutely.
But we haven't contemplated that. But I think that's the answer.
I don't agree with you that we haven't contemplated it. I think all the leases require them to do that.
Okay.
And that's one of the things we look for.
All right.
Tony, do you
Well, if
agree?
it meets the definition of a major renovation, they have to come back to us.
But
But
I
a
think-
change that meets the definition of a major.
But there's language in the lease. What is this?
The term cellular itself, I mean, that didn't even exist a certain number of decades ago. It's-
I don't think
It
the word
is what it
cellular
is
even
now. I
applies
don't know
to
what it's going to be 10 years, 20 years.
But if it
40
becomes,
years from now.
something
No, I
different,
think it's in the lease.
then it's not what we approved, then it would have to come back to us, you know, it's substantially different.
Do we need any language?
I think
The riders in the package.
sort of would hope it, but I don't think we need language for that.
There is.
I think there is.
Like we approve them also when they build
Well, yeah,
crematorium, that's
you know,
it.
this- For example, this, you know, I can understand that having a change, but what's happening inside of it changes materially. And the hope that we have an opportunity to weigh in on that as well.
I think we would.
I think
Materially.
I think it's in here, and I think we should be looking for that language in the existing leases, and I don't think we need to change anything.
The writer does have a definition of major alteration. It says major alteration shall mean the installation, construction, replacement, or upgrading of any antenna, tower, support structure, guy wire, equipment shelter, cabinet, cable, fence, transmission cable, electrical line, or other similar links.
That's pretty good. So it's in there. Okay.
And I'll tip my hat to Joe Wall, because I think he's.
And we carve out quote unquote minor alterations. So presume if they're replacing one wire, they don't have to come back to us. But if they're really futzing with it, they absolutely.
I didn't
do.
realize that we had employed this common sense analysis and put it in the red, that's amazing. Joe Ball is out there, thank you. Joe Ball's our attorney for UCC.
We'll be calling counsel on his cell phone, just so you know. Hopefully he's able to conference the carrier.
So Tony, you reviewed the list, the lease already.
Yes. And
This
the
one's.
writer was modified to fit this. This one was much easier.
There were a couple of minor changes to make to it. Looks the least things like we can try and activate
sent, I don't know if I ever saw the changes. I sent you my
I have
list of,
yeah, I just forwarded them to you, I sent them to you.
there were changes, they were all
Yeah,
made.
I have a red one.
Hi, you've reached Dave McCartney. Please leave your name and number, and I'll get back to you.
At the tone, please record your message. When you've finished recording, you may hang up or press 1 for more options. To leave a callback number, press 5.
Mr. McCartney, Louis Polishuk, and the entire State Cemetery Board, we were trying to call you, we had a couple questions on the lease. We're about to go into executive session. I will try you can try me back on my cell phone and we can loop you in if we're not in executive session. It's 347-525-7168. Or, now the whole world has my cell phone. But it's
Oh
my
my
work,
God.
but it's my work cell phone, so that's okay. Or you can, I give it to everybody.
Now we'll really
It's on
see
my
who
card.
watches.
If we're in executive session, we can call you back when we're done with that. Let me know if you want me to call you on the cell or in the office. Thanks.
Great, okay.
I think it's on my, I think it's on my card. They can have my cell. Dave has my cell. It's hung up. It's hung up.
Oh, okay. All right, so I have a suggestion I get. Now, this attorney is the attorney for the carrier?
No,
Or the
he's the
cemetery?
attorney for the cemetery. He's gonna
Alright.
call the attorney for the
So
carrier.
here's what I propose for now, because there's a lot of these cell phone towers up. I mean, you know what I mean, like they're all over the place. So perhaps a conditional approval based upon an assurance from the cemetery, someone of expertise, which will be the carrier, all right? That in fact this poses no communications or health implications for the hospital
In the surrounding neighborhood.
and the surrounding neighborhood. I mean, they're gonna have to, we know that the answer is there's no health issues for the surrounding neighborhood. These wouldn't be there, that's the FCC rule. But we can get an assurance from the attorney. And, is that,
I think it's almost there. There are a couple other things in the application that I had questions about. The tenant shall have the opportunity to relocate the telecommunication facility on a landlord's property to a mutually agreed location. If such location shall remedy the events described. There was interference and it wasn't able to function the way they wanted it to. So right now it's a quarter mile away, but it doesn't, there's a provision in.
They would have to
that
come
they
back.
move.
That's where the rider would require them to come back to
Yeah.
us.
there's no way that they can move that once we do it.
I can't imagine that would ever happen. They've cited this. They've done their homework. Even if the cemetery and we haven't, Verizon has done its homework.
I think if the hospital agrees that it poses no threat to medical operations or administrative operations or whatever, there's probably no reason for the board to object to it on the grounds that we're just discussing. But I'd like to know that the hospital has had a chance to look at it and consider it, so that on the day that they throw the switch, something doesn't happen, that something untoward doesn't happen.
Well, then I'm gonna put, then I would propose this, and we can put the burden on the hospital, which is where it should be, I think, and that is, that we acquire the condition approval, conditioned upon the cemetery's notification to the hospital of the cell tower, and that the hospital would have an opportunity to, if the hospital objected on the basis of health or communications issues, that it would do so and set forth its reasons.
To who?
To us.
Cemetery.
See, here I have a problem with that. What are we gonna do with that objection? I think what we need to do instead
That's true.
is find out what FCC review, more about what FCC review entails, and more about what local planning board review entails, and figure out whether that's protected there, because I don't think you guys should be in that business. But I agree with Paul that
We're good,
somebody
okay,
else would be in that
okay, then
business.
let's just we're tabling it.
But can you craft a resolution that we delegate to us if everything is okay, that we don't have to come back to?
No, I think Paul wants to hear. I think we want to hear. We want to know.
Well, if the board's concern is that the hospital, that we want to make sure that the hospital has notice of this, that this doesn't slip under the hospital's radar and have an opportunity to protect its interests. Maybe what we can do is approve it,
Planning board?
the board approves this, but in its approval, direct the division to give notice of the approval to the chief hospital administrator. And that will give them notice that this is going on. And the planning board, there has to be town action on this.
Right.
They'll be able to take any protective action in front of the town, not in front of us. So let's get our
That makes
approval
sense.
to the hospital administrator. And that'll ensure that the hospital will have notice of this before it's final.
I believe there's been the reason if this were any other situation, I would agree. I mean, one concern I have here, I think what Tony's saying makes sense. One concern I have here is that I'm pretty sure there's litigation between the hospital and the cemetery, where the cemetery accused the hospital of, when it did its parking lot, causing drainage to come onto their property and inundating graves, and I think there might have been counter allegations. And the relationship here is not necessarily.
I think that's sort of irrelevant.
I mean, the planning,
Yeah, okay.
the ordinary planning process is one thing, but giving them somehow a special veto over this, which I guess your solution doesn't do.
No, just make sure that they notice.
Here's the way I see it. I think that the board is expressing that it just needs some comfort, and I think the comfort's out there, all right? I really do. I think this has been litigated. Cell phones are federally controlled in tower to a certain extent. There's no question, but they're in use. But the board, as you put it very well, Louis, we could get some expertise presentation on FCC, what the FCC covers, all right, which I think will most likely calm
And what the locality is covered.
any fears, all right, and then having had that, then we can go ahead and approve or not, and require notice of approval or not, all right, but like a little bit of information first. If you could get it, put it in a one-page memo and send it around to the board before, that'd be great. And we can go with that.
It occurs to me that one of our guests might know the answers to these questions. Do you?
Yeah. Do you really think he's gonna step in on that? No, this is.
I have, I'm happy to talk in public comment on my.
But maybe we'll have that expertise after public comment.
There we go.
But in any event, so I'm going to recommend that we table it. All right, and if in fact, is there a need for speed on this?
They seem anxious, but the only need for speed would be if the tower, if the carrier wants to actually get the work done this season. You're going to be without a cell tower until.
But they're talking about planning board. They haven't got that approval yet. So that's all right.
I don't know when the planning board meets.
If in fact we have to do an emergency meeting, there's a real reason.
So we could do a video conference.
FCC approval too, right?
No, I thought they had FCC approval. What did I say about that?
So like my supposition is that these questions have been asked and answered in a very broad forum. All right, and that's what we'll come back to us with, but it's absolutely reasonable and appropriate for us to know that. So let's table it, all right, and if we have to come back early to deal with it, that's great. Okay. All right.
Knowing it is one thing, but getting into the business is another thing.
I agree with you, Louis. I really do. We do not have the expertise to deal with that, nor should we. That is a local
It's
function.
becoming more common.
So
Since I've been on the board, there've been several.
Oh, yes.
Well, they come in waves. There was a huge wave from there, kind of died down, and now it's back.
All right.
Paul, how did you know that it was happening?
I actually, when I get these applications, I go on Google Earth and I zoom in to the street level so I can see what I'm thinking about. And I just did a 360 and there was Nyack Hospital right across the street from Nyack.
But it's across the gates of the cemetery because it's at the back.
The site of the tower is in the back,
Right.
southwest corner, but the cemetery
The
itself
cemetery
is
faces
directly
the
across the
hospital,
street.
exactly.
We've got an opening for investigator. I would really like you to apply. Great stuff.
We'll have to find you a good region.
Right.
Unfortunately, we'd probably send you to the North Country.
That was a really interesting discussion. That's great stuff.
All right, so we're gonna vote on your motion?
No, you're taking.
Just table it. Just table it, no problem. We'll just, hopefully we'll have some information, I'm sure we'll have some information relatively soon, so we can bring it back. All right, well, that does conclude the public agenda. So at this point, I'll open the meeting up for public comment. We're not heavily attended today.
No, I guess I'll have
What's
to
going on?
chime in.
That's all right.
David Fleming from the New York State Association of Cemeteries. I just, a couple of things on the applications for the dangerous monuments and restoration repair. And I say this respectfully, you guys understand the situation, but I deal with cemeteries every day. The applications are extremely difficult as it is in many parts of the state. I've had conversations with one in the past, who understands that. To get multiple quotes even is difficult because there are very few people who are actually doing the work upstate, in certain parts of the area of upstate. Western New York is obviously different from Long Island and New York City, where there are plenty of people who are doing this work. So in many instances, it becomes difficult even to put an application together, having enough real quotes that really address the work. It's difficult, and as we continue to add layers of replacement versus flush markers and these other issues, I just want to bring it to the board's attention that it is very difficult for these cemeteries that are, you frequently deal with the top 2% of cemeteries, which are the ones that have the staff and have an office and are able to do things. Most of the cemeteries do not have that, and they have volunteer boards. And I have a cemetery I'm working with right now that's just having a very difficult time finding anybody who quotes for monument restoration and foundation restoration that they feel are real, that are going to address the work. So I just wanted to bring that to your attention.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So just be aware that is, I would hope that as the division has more work associated with what the applications are supposed to look like, we might be able to provide that either online or in some easy reference way, because it takes so long for these small cemeteries to be able to even just get the quotes and be able to put a package together to give to the division. And then when there are problems, it takes months more to fix those. When you're dealing with volunteers, they can lose a whole season, which becomes a problem if it's a dangerous monument. There's other complications. So
We might be able to help on some of that if the cemetery is, you guys probably can too, but if the cemetery is relatively close to one where we've had an application, we might be able to get you certain. We obviously can't recommend anyone, but we can certainly say so-and-so and so-and-so have been working with these cemeteries, and I want to call them.
yes, unfortunately, in some of these areas, those have been places where you've had problems
Bad
with the
work,
work
yeah.
that was done.
Yep.
And I'm no expert, but I've seen some work that's been done.
Yeah.
So,
One thing that surprises me is the difference between quotes. I mean, sometimes you get two quotes and they're quite a bit different. And then you have the added complication of the warranty being different, so you're comparing apples to oranges.
Well, the
Cheaper job
warranties-
for a lesser warranty or a higher cost job.
Right, so you're weighing all that as an individual who doesn't really have a lot of expertise, and the warranty is kind of the new piece. I put in an application that was approved by the cemetery board for one of our cemeteries. The difference was between $8,000 and $12,000. So one was for 8, one was for 12. But the 12 was clearly better quality work, more comprehensive, had a warranty, and so I know that the staff weighs those factors when they make a recommendation to the board. But I just wanted to bring it to your attention. We deal with a lot more cemeteries lately who are having problems in trying to just meet the requirements. And the requirements are understandable. It's just understand that as you add new layers, you need to be able to communicate that to them effectively. And that it is difficult even just to find people who are going to do quality work.
What I have found is that some monument dealers who have submitted estimates and who have maybe put in a higher bid, after 2 or 3 or 4 of these and of not getting the work, and they won't put in any more estimates. They figure, well, if I'm not going to get the work, why take the time to even put together an estimate, which is very time consuming for at least 50 markers, and then add on top of that the requirement for okay, give us how much is it going to cost to replace, which adds more time to the estimate. Then I could see them bowing out of the process very easily, because a lot of them especially during the busy season, the summertime, they've got other things going on, and they're just, they don't want to have the time to even get into, you know, gathering the info for how much to replace, and then as Mike mentioned, how much is it gonna cost to remove these monuments, some of the tall obelisks? It's not an easy task to remove them. Where are they gonna take them? I don't even know if a landfill will take a tall obelisk type of monument, so that will be a problem, just removal.
Yeah, I have no problem leaving the discretion of the division in terms of what it requires. I mean, I'm gonna rely on the division, I think we all do. You know, and when a cemetery says this is an historic area, for instance, that's really historic, all right, and there is no issue. The division, if in fact, we're talking about disposal, all right, that's gonna be a huge expense, you know that already. I mean, I don't want you doing stuff that is make work, all right? So maybe we have to refine this ask, all right, somewhat, so that.
Would it be possible to have a standard warranty required? If they're going to have this work done, this is potentially forever. You don't want to go out too far because the business might not be in operation 25 years from now.
I don't think the warranty is the issue. I think the thing that's going to cause controversy from what folks are saying is requiring replacement market estimates on every application. I think the warranty is pretty easy, right? The warranty is, guys, how much you're going to warrant it for? And I think as a rule of thumb, we can probably say 5 years for setting and whatever, at least 10 for the foundation. I think from the division's point of view, from what I heard today, is reasonable, and that can be let out for folks. Well, they can work, have no problem warranting that. For folks who don't warrant it, they can work.
Well, I think it's important that that's clear that that's a policy that they're looking for, because there is such a difference in the marketplace across the state. And, you know, it's not uncommon to have someone who pays for a 4-foot deep foundation to later discover when the monument is failing that they just simply put 4 pieces of 2x4 on the surface of the ground and poured concrete and left the foundation. So, I mean, there's such a difference across the state in these companies. I think if it's a general policy that everyone's looking, the division's looking for a particular type of warranty, I think that's helpful. It impacts the whole marketplace, but there's already such a difference in how you're getting quotes and what's going on. I'm just trying to make that clear to you.
Good stuff.
And not to take up too much of your time, just two other quick points. Len actually touched on the other issue I was going to say. These replaced monuments are a problem. If they're hauled away, certainly the cost is very expensive to have them hauled away. It's C&D, that's essentially what it is. And if it's not hauled away as part of the bid, you're going to have these things stored somewhere, and it's going to lead to problems.
Yes,
Someone's stone is going to be discovered. On the local level, it happens all the time. You know, it's desecration of graves when in fact the monument was replaced 30 years ago, but it's sitting out in the back, and you just can't read it. But the other issue is on the cell towers. And just quickly from the association's perspective, you know, we certainly view the approval by the cemetery board as necessary to provide additional income to the cemetery. And understand it needs to be done in a way that's appropriate to protect the lot owners, but certainly it's helping the lot owners by having the income. Cell tower law is extremely complicated. It is primarily regulated by the FCC. They have, you know, there are approvals through the FCC that these companies are going through. And there are actually specialty companies, law firms, that go to municipalities to help them draft their cell tower laws. Each municipality has an extensive law on cell tower site locations. I know this firsthand. Is probably one of the biggest part of our code is actually, you know, our local code is on the cell tower site. And additionally, the zoning requirements for applications require notification within certain perimeters of the land that is going to be affected. In our municipality, it's 500 feet of every property owner within 500 feet of the site. So I would just caution you, as you are, certainly you obviously have concerns, but in creating overlapping jurisdictions and additional requirements for local zoning, that could be a problem for cemeteries. We're absolutely just concerned that lease obligations are one thing, but, you know, obviously we're looking at having these applications approved, that make, the ones that make sense and are good for the cemetery, so. I understand the concerns, but just please be aware that it's pretty complicated as far as the law goes.
And it's subject to secret?
It is, it's a regular, it's like a development, basically. And it's not, depending on the municipality, there are some pretty significant and far-reaching impacts, but on a development project, to say that you have to go out a quarter of a mile or half a mile from a property that's not being impacted, that starts to become a problem.
Thank you. All right, anybody else today? Okay, what we'll do is we'll take a 5-minute break, and then we'll go into executive. We'll set a date too. Oh, wait a minute, I'm gonna do motion for executive session, because that'd be like.
Yeah, but if
Motion
you
to
do
go-
that, then you can't do anything else like
then
set a
we can-
date.
Motion to go into executive session after we set a date. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. Now we can set a date.
So what is your problem here, Andy?
What problem?
What day is it?
Oh,
First week of November.
I don't know. I think I'm fine with anything other than I don't want the idea of doing it on election day. In fact, I have a conflict on election day, actually, up in the county.
We were supposed to do it on Wednesday.
I thought we were moving back to Thursday, Paul?
No,
Remember your Wednesday meetings moving back to Thursdays? Or your Thursday meetings moving back to Wednesday?
Wednesdays and Thursdays, it's happening on both days now, so.
Oh, I'm just gonna have to miss some. That sounds video.
Yeah, sure.
That week, do we
What
want to
date
do
is
it
it?
Monday or Friday?
Okay, right?
For that week, do we want to do it on Monday or Friday?
Date is decided?
I
We're able to-
don't know, usually has Dan.
Well, it's not the 17th,
Yeah.
whatever date that is.
What about Wednesday the 20th?
The issue with the dates is that we don't
Wednesday the
have,
4th, we don't have the room.
we don't have a
Oh,
room
that's right.
Wednesday or Thursday.
Oh, wow.
I bet you get a room on Tuesday, but I'm supposed to be in Putnam County, so it would be very easy.
I mean, I can look, but the rooms are pretty.
Confirm, we could stop recording now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, no, wait, no, we can't, we're not in executive session.
Okay.
So that's out, so what do we have available Monday?
I mean, we could choose a different
Week?
week
Or we could
for
do Monday
November.
or Friday, if that
Go to
would.
the 10th.
Friday the
Either one,
6th
doesn't
wasn't
matter.
available.
I can't do that.
Yeah, Fridays are dangerous,
What
why don't
about
we
the
go to
Monday?
next week?
Monday the
What about
2nd?
Monday the 2nd? Or would you rather go to the next
No,
week?
Monday's all right.
I'd rather go the next week.
So let's go to the next week.
Well, Wednesday's a holiday, the 11th. That's Veterans Day.
Oh, okay, we're close.
Tuesday?
The 10th?
Yep.
May.
Tuesday the 10th is fine.
No, it's not. No, it's not.
I'm sorry.
How about?
Monday the 9th?
Monday the 9th? I have no problem with that. So I say without my calendar. That's all
I have nothing
I
on
don't
the
think I can do
calendar.
that, no.
right. Okay.
I prefer Monday the 2nd.
Is that okay? Ms. Lewis is original. Monday the 2nd? Yes. Okay. Are we good? We have that room? We have a room Monday?
We haven't looked.
I haven't looked yet.
All right, hold tentatively scheduled for the
Okay.
2nd.
Second?
And then we'll go the first Wednesday of every month.
Are we gonna do Wednesdays or Thursdays, Paul?
He doesn't care. It's both convenient.
And is it Monday,
They're equally
I'll
pernicious.
just,
do more, would afternoons help you more?
Oh, no. I can't. That's
What
my
if we
nap
did-
time.
What if we did it during lunch? And we all sat here
You
chopping
treat,
pizza.
I'll consider. All right, very good. Take 5 minutes and then we'll do executive. We have one matter to report, coming out of executive session. Tony, I'll let you summarize, because I forgot already.
Sure. The board was presented by a memorandum regarding financial transactions at Lutheran Cemetery. After considering the material that was presented and after discussion and deliberation, a motion was made, seconded, and approved to refer the matter of Lutheran Cemetery to the Attorney General's office, subject to individual board member approval of the form of the board order drafted and presented by council in consultation with the division.
Very good. All right.
Motion and second.
No, we already
He said
seconded.
we're
Executive
just
session.
reporting it.
Yep.
Oh, my bad.
So,
I'll go back to not paying attention.
having concluded that business, I will motion to adjourn.
Second?
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Wonderful. Thank you.